days have been like with your defensive lineman?
Well, it's been educational for me. You know, obviously trying to figure out who retained what we did in the spring and started, you know, kind of where they left off as opposed to, you know, guys we had to start over again. I guess the best part of it was that I think all those young guys, you know, legitimate players, you know, Jeffrey and Kobe and Marquise, they all have, you know, something unique about them that's encouraging, especially for me because I didn't recruit any of them, so I didn't know much about them, and other than what I saw in the little huddle. So it was good.
How was the process? You kind of mentioned in the spring, learning the college game again, and you know the recruiting game. How's that process come along for you?
It's coming along. You know, thanks for asking that question because that's been the biggest adjustment. Those two things. You know, ball is ball, but the offenses in college are dramatically different than what they are in defense. You know, especially what they are in pro game, especially from the standpoint of quarterback. You know, in the NFL, they tend to protect those 12 to $22 million players. In college, they just roll in the next one. so it's 11 on 11 in college, and you know you got to figure out a way to defend those type of offenses.
How would you describe A.J. Jefferson's leadership style?
You know what? It has grown. It has grown. I think A.J. was kind of a victim of I shouldn't say victim. I think he fell into a comfort zone, always having experienced guys to lead the group. And then all of a sudden pop up and he rolls out of bed. Now he's that guy. And it was a slow process, but I'm really, really excited about, number one, him accepting the challenge, and then number two, what he's done with it.
You think he kind of relates to the younger guys just because he's kind of laid back and he does have that big personality?
Well, again, that's proper. You say to me, younger guys, I mean, heck, he's only 4 years older than the other guy, you know, 5 years or whatever. So to me, they're all younger guys. But yeah, they can relate to each other. If that's what you're asking. Yeah.
Coach Mullen and Coach Sherman both said this is going to be a very multiple defensive front.
Absolutely.
How does that impact your practice plans now that it's not spring and you're still in camp, but you also got to think about getting ready for the season?
Well, at this point, there's no difference because we're still developing depth, developing their comfort with the entire system. So giving them as much as they can to help them feel comfortable with it. We're not game planning at this point in life. So right now it's like the spring, and that's what I mentioned earlier, the progression, how quickly can we start from where we stopped as opposed to starting over. Unfortunately, some guys were starting over, but I think as a group we're able to pick up where we stopped, especially with the guys we're really counting on.
You got some guys that have to be versatile. Obviously, Calvin's worked some at Viper and was at DN in the spring.
Right.
And then Will Coleman is I guess was started at Viper in the spring. But talk about those guys, how much they have to have on their plate to go back and forth, especially with Calvin.
Well, first of all, you know, that's part of our responsibility as coaches to not give them more than they can handle. So, you know, and again, it's the same with the front. You know, guys playing tackles, nose ends, and that kind of thing. So the guys that we feel like can handle the multiplicity of a multiple front, we give that to. You know, and John definitely has a unique skill set in that he is a big man that moves very, very well. So, you know, figure, hey, here's a great opportunity to see if he can handle it.
You mentioned A.J. How have guys like Nelson and Torrey, and then I guess Nick James in that rotation, the older guys, how have they jumped into this preseason?
Good for the most part. I'm you know, as an overall group, they're where I expected them to be. You know, I don't want to say pleased because for me to be pleased, they would have had to exceed my expectations, and they haven't done that. So they've met them, so I'm okay with it. They're kind of where I expect them to be. Now the real test is, you know, how quickly we progress, because it becomes a mental challenge now. They know the defense, and they're comfortable with the defense now. It's a matter of perfecting the traits, becoming experts at playing a position, and that's just repetition, hard work, and an intensity level.
Jeffrey's had a lot of stuff going on off the field the last few months. How has he handled the stuff on the field?
Well, you guys have had more stuff involved with him off the field than he has. You know, I mean, once the situation happened, it's been dealt with, you know, adjudicated. We've made decisions on how we're going to handle it. He understands it. He understands his situation, and he's able to focus and move on. So really, you know, he said a lot of stuff that's relative. You know what I mean? You know, if it was a situation where he's reacting to every time something comes up, then yeah, it's a lot of stuff. He hasn't done that, which I think exhibits a tremendous maturity level. for a kid his age, and I'm really pleased with that, pleasantly surprised, to be honest with you, having not known him. And he's been able to grind. I tell you what, you're talking about a competitive, intense kid. The thing that he's dealing with, that he's struggling with, is the fact that that he's still struggling with the ankle a little bit, ankle leg, whatever it is. That he can't really blow and go the way he wants to and the way he's used to just yet. And a little bit of that is us kind of nursing him through. That's what he's frustrated with. The other part, he's dealt with it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So have we.
How have Grant Harris, Bryson Hoyt, Corey Thomas, some of those guys that are in the rotation, how are they feeling it now to be that second group of guys?
Well, that's the depth. You know what I mean? They're competing. The challenge I made for all those guys, including Kobe and Jeffrey, compete like you're a starter. You know what I mean? You got to prepare, compete like you're a starter. Now, saying that, you can't bite off more than you can chew, because then you end up getting just flattened by everything. So handle what you can handle, but continue to progress forward and continue to prepare like, hey, this is my job, and let the depth chart be what it is. So I'm like the older guys. I'm okay with that. Their ebb and flow like young guys do, but I think their high spikes are very encouraging.
You're preparing for a new system, you say it's kind of a different game than what you're used to. How does that affect your coaching, if at all?
It's great. At 54 years old, coaching for over 30 years, it's really, I consider it a blessing to be in a situation where you're challenged every day. Because I guess human nature, I've kind of fell into a little bit of a comfort zone in the NFL. Although I'd been in several teams and had learned several systems, ball is ball up there. I just had to learn verbiage. Although it was a fantastic experience, I did. I fell into a comfort zone, which I'm ashamed to say because that shouldn't happen, but I did. But having said that, now there's no comfort zone here. This is a challenge for me every day. It's making me a better coach. It challenges me to challenge them and make them better players. So I'm really excited about the opportunity.
How has the bonding of the 4 new defensive coaches gone since spring?
Fantastic. It really has. And really in us bonding with Coach Mullen, I feel like we feel very comfortable with him, and hopefully he feels comfortable with us. Ask him that question, let me know what he says. And no, amongst the staff, Peter's done a great job. Understanding that everybody's got different experiences in that room. They come from different places, been involved in different systems. So everybody has something different to bring to the table. And he's very, very receptive and really kind of demanding on it. He's asked opinions all the time. He considers everything we talk about. And when you do that, whether we go with the way one guy wants to go or not, because you heard it, because you know that your point is being heard, things are being considered, you leave the room unified. You're like, okay, we bounced this around, and this is the way we feel like is best for our defense within our system. So, I think, if coordinators continue to do that, whether it's him or somebody else, I think you have pretty cohesive defensive staffs, offensive staffs for that matter too.
You talked well about Braxton in the spring, and then he had the ankle injury to kind of set him back. How has he come back from that?
He started kind of slow, but he's picked it up. First day I didn't recognize him, kind of like, oh man. Then, talked to him about it, challenged him. He's a very conscientious kid, hard worker, wants to play well. So he picked it up next day. He's been progressing ever since. So first day I wasn't happy with him. Next few days, I was pretty satisfied.
How has the recruiting changed since you last did it with Georgia Tech?
How much time do you have? Okay, there was no Paul. Okay, there was no recruiting service. There was I believe there was a blue book. There was Lemming. And that was it. There were no stars. There was no ESPN. There certainly was no coverage on signing day other than local media at the school. Okay, and it was always a celebration because there were no rankings of classes. There was one game back then, and it was the game on Saturdays. Now college football has become the game on that first Wednesday in February. That's one season for college football, and then the second season happens in September, starts in September. So that's the biggest change, by far. That's the biggest change. Twitter and all that electronic stuff, there were different ways to recruit back then too. And that's been a change for me because I'm an old guy that just, had a flip phone until about 8 months ago. So you guys are laughing, but that's true. But so that part, that's just me because I got, because I allowed myself to get stuck in the old days. One of those getting out of the comfort zone. That was part of my comfort zone. Flip phone. I didn't want to learn how to use a smartphone. all of a sudden had to learn how to use one. So all of that brought me forward. But that part's not hard. All the other stuff to me is real different.
Is the pitch to the mom and dad and the kids still the same?
Let me tell you what, that part is the only part that's the same. You know, a kid has to believe in the guys that are coaching them. They have to believe that the school's the best opportunity for them. Mom and dad are going to hand their kid over to you because they feel like you're the best guy to help them develop into young men and the good players. So the pitch is exactly the same. I mean, you know, it's relationships. That part, after you get through all the other stuff,
Right.
you know, in some cases, these kids have brokers and all this crap, you know, hey, this guy, you know, all this crap is crazy. Okay, but once you get through that, you know, you want the coach to feel good about you, you want the family to feel good about you, and those are relationships.